You've known for a while that you have a book in you. Let's see if we can get it out. I've got some tips for writing a book for the first time. I am excited for you. Writing your first book, this is going to be awesome. How do we do it? The first thing that I would suggest is that you get real about this. I had told myself that I'm going to write a book for 10 years, at least. And every time I said it, it was true. I'm going to. It's always off in the future somewhere. Make it real. And the quickest way that I know to make it real is to go to the bookstore and look for your book. This works best in the old traditional bookstores that have actual books on shelves. And I've got one just a few blocks from my office. When I say go to the bookstore, show up in the bookstore or the book section of your favorite store and start looking for where your book would be if it were already published. Now, I knew when I entered the bookstore that I wasn't going to wander into the mechanics magazines. That's not where my book is. I wasn't going to go over into the knitting books. My wife might enjoy some time there, but that's not where my book is. So I headed straight for psychology and self-help. I knew that's probably where my book would be. See, going into the bookstore helps you to start organizing your thoughts around what your book actually is. And you know what sections it won't be in. You might have to do a little bit of thinking to figure out which sections it is in. But when you get to that section, start looking around for books that are going to be around or in the same area on the shelf as your book would be. This is such a powerful exercise because it helps you to really make it real. Envision it, see it. Now, while you're there at the bookstore, pull 6 books off of the shelf that are similar to or in the same category as your book. Pull 6 of them. Go find one of those big overstuffed chairs. Sit down and start browsing through it a little bit. This might be a little more difficult if you're in an online bookstore like Amazon or Barnes & Noble, but you can still do it if you select several books. Oftentimes they'll let you preview the book right there online. This is important because you want to thumb through the book a little bit. Get a feel for how it's organized. How long is it? How thick is it? How big is it? Get a feel for the actual physical dimensions of your book. And then purchase one that best represents, from those 6 that you pulled, purchase one that best represents the closest thing to your book. Now, it's not your book, it's somebody else's book. When I did my first visit to the bookstore, I purchased this one, Mark Muchnick. No More Regrets. I bought this one because it best represented to me what I thought my book was going to look and feel like. Now, not look specifically like this, and obviously I'm not going to copy Mark's book and try to knock it off as my own. No, but this is the one that sang with me, that resonated the most with me of the ones that I pulled. That helped me to get a better sense of what my book was going to look like. Okay, next, set an appointment with yourself. After you've done your little book tour at the bookstore, set a writing appointment and keep it. Actually put it into your calendar. Don't tell yourself, I'm going to start writing on Saturday. Put it into your calendar. Start time, end time, my writing appointment. I set mine for Saturday morning at 5 o'clock, from 5 to 7. That's when I do all of my writing. 5 to 7 Saturday morning. Nobody else wants me. It's the only thing on my calendar. That's when I'm going to do my writing appointment. And you keep that writing appointment. Here's a little hint. It's a recurring appointment. Now, whether you do it the same time every week or not, set an appointment that keeps coming up. Because to write, you have to sit down and write. Who knew? Make an appointment with yourself. Don't put it on your to-do list. If you're like me, I don't do to-do lists. I do what's in my calendar. So put it in as an appointment and then keep your appointment. When you start writing, you're not doing a final draft. You are simply getting it from here onto there. Wherever there is. It might be a word processor where you're actually typing. That's the way I choose to write. It might be that you have a digital recorder that you're holding up right here in front of your mouth and you're speaking your book. That's totally legitimate too. And there's all kinds of software and programs that will help to turn that into text that can then be edited. The main thing is just capture those ideas. Don't worry about organizing them too much. One of the reasons you went to the bookstore and bought a book that looks like the one that you think you're going to write is to give you some ideas about how to organize your thoughts. If you have an outline to work from or something like that, it makes it a little bit easier. Just start capturing the content and avoid the temptation to edit. That's going to come later, and trust me, you're going to have plenty of editing time. But for this first pass, you just want to brain dump. Get it out there. Get your ideas into a format that can then be edited later on. Now what? Second draft. I like the way Stephen King put this in his memoir on writing. He said, second draft equals first draft minus 20%. All you have to do on the second pass through is cut out 2 out of every 10 words. You've put too many words into it on the first draft. We already know that. Second draft is going to pare that thing down so you start honing in on the main ideas and the best way to present them. That's a pretty good idea, that second draft equals first draft minus 20%. There comes a time when you get to put this in front of some other people. And there's 2 ways that you're going to do that. I call it free feedback and paid feedback. Now the free feedback is when you share it with your family and your friends and they all say, "Oh, it's wonderful. You are so awesome and amazing. I'm glad you finally wrote your book." You're doing that for you because you need to have a little bit of feedback and strokes that you're on the right track. Your family and friends love you and they're not going to really be honest with you about the book. So this is where the paid feedback comes in. I hired Mr. Thomas Cantrell, my creative editor for my book. Thank you, Thomas, for all of your good work on that book. And he shot straight with me. I was paying him to make the book great. So the free feedback is for you. The paid feedback is for the book. You follow? You need a little bit of professional help to get this from the brain dump that you did in the first and second draft to the book that is going to change some lives when it's finally published. Remember earlier when I said you got to make it real and that's why you're going to go to the bookstore? I took another step at one point where I took somebody else's book and I pasted a copy of my cover on the front of somebody else's book. I'm not going out to sell these. This is for me. This is to give me something to hold that looks even more like my book than the one that I bought. Do you see how it's becoming more real for me? Psychologically, this is a trick that works really nicely. I pasted my cover on that and I felt a surge of energy. I needed that surge of energy to get through all of the additional edits that Thomas took me through, because he knew what he was doing with this book. That's a lot of work. A good friend of mine, Brett Harward, author of the book, The 5 Laws That Determine All of Life's Outcomes, when I ran it by Brett, he said, "Paul, you're going to feel like you're about 80% there. It's probably just the opposite. You're about 20% there." And I was offended at first. I'm like, "What? I've done a lot of work on this." He's like, I know. I was there too." And he was right. The fine editing, the revisions, the things that are required to get it from the rough draft to a really polished final draft is more work than you expect, but not as much as you fear. It's totally doable and you've got this. At some point, you're ready to do a final draft. And that's what this one is. It's still a draft. You'll notice it says proof in the back. This is the one that was sent to me to review to see if it's close. And it was, but there were still a lot of corrections we had to do after this first draft. Finally, when this one showed up, finished. Finished product. Can you imagine how it's going to feel to hold your finished book in your hands? One that you can put into the hands of someone else. This is what makes your ideas last beyond you. And it's a fantastic experience. I'm excited for you to write your book, and when you've finished it, I would like to know about that because I may want to interview you for my podcast. Could you use a little coaching in the meantime? Go to liveonpurpose.coach, where you'll see profiles of coaches that are certified in the programs and processes that we teach here at Live on Purpose TV. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Hope to see you then.